Lovely piece, beautifully played. Oh my, that makes a difference. It's Sunday and I get to be here. How nice. This is wonderful. Be here with you and be in this space and be in these ideas that you all stand for. It's such a treat. What a nice. Today is an interesting day. This week is an interesting week. This is the weekend that we honor women in our world. And that's a relatively new thing, at least in this cycle of history. It's an ancient thing prior to this cycle of history. And in our culture, we don't do this very often. And what we're honoring is that women can be accepted in normal society. That women can be accepted in the political world, that women can be accepted in the daily work world, the retail world, the professional world, all of those things that were not possible 100 years ago or 200 years ago. And that wasn't that women weren't honored in their own world. They just weren't accepted in that other world. And that's an interesting way to think of it. Acceptance. I know every one of us has been through some place, some time, usually along about middle school, when acceptance was not happening. And it didn't feel good. We didn't feel like we were part of what was going on. It might have been in a work situation, it might have been in a social situation, but for most of us it was some stage in school. I have a friend who attended, I think he said 9 different schools, and every time you had to learn the acceptance rules. In one school, White Sox was de rigueur, and the other one, it meant you were going to get beat up. And you didn't know until you got there. Yeah. It's really awful not to feel accepted. And we all know that. And then we get a place like this. Yeah. There's actually, I always do a little prep for these things. And I was doing some prep, and one of the things that I did was looking at some quotes. And there was this lovely quote, and it said, the place where you know you can feel loved and accepted, that's home. And it was out of a novel. And it just really rang a bell. That's home. You know you can walk in the door and feel loved and accepted. And in many cases, it is the year fellowship where we can feel that, where we can count on it. Regardless of who we are, what color we are, what history we bring or don't bring, what clothes we wear, and whether we remembered to do the right thing yesterday morning, whether we know who the right people are, it doesn't really matter. We walk in here and we are accepted. Oh my goodness. It's a fundamental principle of the Unitarian congregation. The acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth. Recognizing that each and every one of us is where we are, and that's fine. And we are on a path. And it's our own path. And that's great. Sometime you might want to go online and you just want a few chuckles. Check out one of the Unitarian Universalist jokes page. And one of the jokes is a woman who was in New Summit up in New England. She was attending a church, a Unitarian congregation, but she was new to town. And after church, she went out and got herself some lunch. And you know how it is on Sunday. Almost all the churches have groups of people having lunch, right? And she was sitting quietly in her corner of this little cafe, and next to her was a table full of people from another church. And they were chatting about what the different churches in town were like. And someone said, well, what do those Unitarians believe? And her ears perked up, right? And she heard recycling. We believe in receptive. So there's wonderful, wonderful ways we can play with the whole concept of acceptance, you know, and the realization that the world out there is not in the habit of accepting. It's one of the reasons we come to these places, is so we can know that that's a place where it happens. And so there's another wonderful joke I will share, and then I will stop joking. But this is another young lady who's new to town. She goes to the cafe after church, and there's another group of folks who are chatting, and they're talking about various things. And someone says, "Oh yes, you're a Unitarian, aren't you?" And she looks up. Then I have attended the Unitarian church here, yes. And they said, "You're marvelous. You accept Buddhists and Hindus and pagans?" "Oh yes, and we accept Christians too." We're very open. And yes, we do, don't we? There are Unitarian congregations where it's hard to get in and be recognized as a Christian, but by and large, we do accept both the G word and the J word. Oh, there is one more joke. One more lovely joke. So the Unitarian is concerned. Her sister's coming to town. She's not sure she can bring her into the congregation. And she says, the minister, she uses the J word all that time. I don't know. And then we say, "She's got a problem with Jesus?" "Oh no, justice." One of the teachers that I use a lot in my work is a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins. And she grew up in New England and was a teacher, a high school teacher. She taught chemistry and literature and geometry. And then it was 150 years ago, and she got married, and some of you may recall that as recently as 50 or 60 years ago, a married woman was not allowed to be a teacher. So she had to stay home with her kid. And that was hard on her. And then she discovered a whole body of material, and then she became a teacher again. It was wonderful. And it was known at that time as Christian Science, although what she taught was not what Mary Baker Eddy taught. So it was the science of Christ. Anyway, she was teaching this, and she came to understand that when we look around at the world around us and we see differences, we create problems for ourselves. When we see the surface differences, we tend to see more difference than similarity. And so what she encouraged people to do was to look past the appearance of differences to the core of the being, the essence of the person. And the essence of the person is always the same, because we are one human being in different forms showing up. Now, Ralph Waldo Emerson used to say that there is one history, that all history is biography and all biography is history, because there is one mind common to all humanity. And Emma Curtis Hopkins went just a little bit beyond that and said there is not just one mind, there is one essence common to all humanity. And Carl Jung would tell us that there is one collective consciousness that is all humanity. So it is the one that we are that we want to be focusing on, rather than the appearance of differences. And if I begin to see through the appearance of the differences and focus on that one, what I see is light. What I see is love. What I see is beauty and wisdom, harmony, intelligence, balance, divine order, even if your place is a mess. Because order is what is keeping this body together. Order is what is keeping this universe together. Order is why we are in the place we are at the moment we are. It is who we are. We are exactly in the right place at the right time. Now, those of us who were raised in a moderately judgmental and critical environment might have a little trouble accepting that we are in exactly the right place at the right time, especially if it's 2 minutes after 10 when we walk in the door instead of 2 minutes before. But so we give ourselves a hard time, and then those of us who give ourselves the hardest times usually are the ones who give the people around us the hardest time. I love that reading. Thank you for selecting that reading for the next committee. That was beautiful because it reminded us that there's something wonderful in every being. And that's what I get to worship. And if someone is in distress, I'm going to see outpourings of that distress as things I've been taught to judge and try to hold away from me. But there's simply the inner distress working its way out. So when those behaviors show up, as we learn and sing in that first song, let that compassion show up. I'm sure most of you have had some experience with 2-year-olds. Yeah. There's that point where they are just so frustrated. And that frustration is as much because they have thought this thing through and the world is not agreeing. And the body is not doing what it's supposed to do. And they know in their heads exactly what it's supposed to look like. And it isn't. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And we can go along with that and get worse. And, oh no, settle down, please. We can do all that. Or we can just go, oh honey, here, have a hug. Oh, you're fine. Yeah, it's frustrating. It's hard sometimes. But it's beautiful and happy and joyful sometimes, isn't it? Remember when? And then we can begin to shift the focus from the distress to the good and the delightful and the real. But we can only do that when we see past the frustration to the wonderful being in that body. The wonderful being behind the behaviors. And we all have developed odd little behaviors. We all have them, don't we? They're the ones that we can't stand in our family. We see so-and-so doing such and such again. Or we hear that story, if I hear that story one more time. Or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And one of the points that Emma Hawkins made, is that every being that exists is this beautiful spiritual essence, even our closest family. Even the ones we have the hardest time with. And it's who they are. Well, what does it take to see that and know that? When we are in our stuff, when we're criticizing ourselves, when we're being judgmental about ourselves, it's almost impossible to be aware of the truth of the other being. So the first thing we get to do is to begin to shift that with that. And relax. And know that who we are is the perfect puzzle piece for this puzzle that's happening right now. Just because we are. What an interesting notion. However we have showed up in this moment is exactly the perfect thing for this moment to be complete. A friend of mine has some construction going on outside his office, and he was standing outside his office. We were checking in on a project we were working on, and he was watching a crow playing in the drop box. You know, those big metal boxes that they bring and they just dump right outside his office door. And it's filled with all of the bits and pieces of the construction and some bits and pieces of the workers' lunches.
Yeah.
And the crow is checking things out, and it's looking, it's going down, and not that, and it comes back up, and it checks, and it looks, and it looks, and it finds a bag that has a little bit of cheese in it. And my friend is going, I don't know if there's anything in there, but oh, yes, there is, yes. And the crow is happily nibbling away. And my friend says, it's wonderful to see this crow be such a perfect crow. I wish all people could be nice. He said, I realized I'm judging people. He says, my goodness, every person is the perfect person in that moment. And I've been judging them because I've been thinking that they ought to be more ideal. That they're not being the ideal person they could be. By whose standards? Oh my goodness, mine. Each and every one of us is the perfect crow. The perfect person for this moment at this time. Now the perfect person may be showing us something about who we are being in the moment and what we are thinking that maybe we want to change. Or they may be offering us something that we could be stepping into and becoming more of. Or they may be encouraging us to be who we are right now. Not trying to be anything else. Acceptance. It starts here. And then it moves out. What I'd like to do is give you a moment to go inside and practice a little skill that might be useful. Are you open to this? There is someone in your world that you're having difficulty accepting. I know this because you're Unitarians now. I know this because you're human beings in your bodies. There is someone in this world. It may be a political figure on the other side of the planet, or it may be someone in your family. There is someone you're having trouble. So why don't you close your eyes and imagine that person is sitting or standing or lounging in front of you somewhere. And just observe that that person that you're having a difficult time accepting is there. And just kind of observe them and be aware of all the ways that it's hard to accept them. And then, what I'd like you to do is kind of scan and see if you can find somewhere in that person that soul space that is light. There's a seed of light in that person. It might be in their heart. It might be in their mind. It might be in their gut. I don't know where it is. See if you can find that little bit of light. And focus on that light. And allow that light to expand through that person. Just feel and see and know that that light is expanding through that person. Expanding through every part of the body and the mind. Filling that person with the light of their own essence. Now just for fun, why don't you invite someone that you really do love and accept, or that you wish you could be more like. Invite that person in to sit or stand or lounge next to the one you're looking at, and allow their light to overlap, so that it is all one light, holding both of these people. And as you do so, Be aware that that light is expanding, and it's expanding to include you, all in one light. One beautiful, loving, brilliant being of light. There is nothing between except this light. You share, you are. Just breathe and enjoy and be. And allow that light to fill your being. Allow that light and that love to expand through you. And now I let it expand beyond the three of you into this world in which you live. And feel all the other connecting lights in your family, in the world, in the community you live in other communities you've lived in the past. That light, that love, that peace, that is who we are. And we feel and see this whole beautiful planet with all the different forms of being filled with and surrounded by that light that we are. And breathe and bring that light and that awareness into this room, into this time. And if you're like me at this point, you begin to feel deep gratitude and appreciation that we share in this, all of you. And so we release all of that awareness. And we release all of these beings into that light and that love. And we accept it as the core of our being. And we breathe and we bring our awareness into this body, in this room, this time. And I will say thank you. And let it be so for always. And someone may say, thank you all so much. Your acceptance is a great gift.